you can totally do it. You don't have to do it perfect. It ain't never going to be perfect, baby. I'm sorry. But do it. If the Lord is telling you to publish a book or to write a book or whatever it is, go and do it. It is okay if you make mistakes. It is okay if you mess up. It is okay if you have to go back and redo it 5 times before you genuinely are pleased with it. But if you go and do it, and if you're faithful to what the Lord has called you to do, there will be rewards. There may be regrets, but there will also be a lot of gratitude and thankfulness, because he'll show himself to you in so many ways, and he'll lead you into these greater opportunities that you never would have experienced otherwise. So even in all the mess and the chaos and the failures, there's so much grace and favor.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Her Reading Life podcast. I am so thrilled that you are here. If this is your first time, welcome to another episode. Why did I say that? Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Her Reading Life podcast. I'm so absolutely thrilled that you are here. If this is your first time, welcome. My name is Shira Rodriguez, and I am here to help you find life-changing books and write life-changing stories. You know, speaking of stories and books, something that I always hear writers or people who want to write who are like, oh my goodness, that would be so amazing if I could have a book like in Target or in Barnes & Nobles or see my book right there in a shelf. Like, how cool would that be? Anybody that has a dream of seeing their book published, there's a big thing that seems to keep them back, and that is the publishing process. But frankly, although people think that it's an obstacle, it actually isn't. It's actually not as hard as you would think, and especially if you have the right people to help you, because you don't have to do it alone, believe it or not. If you don't know how to do it, there are people out there who are ready to help you. People like my guest today, Grace A. Johnson. I'm so over the moon that she was able to come onto today's podcast. Grace is a friend of mine and an indie authoress with a passion for crafting authentic and edifying stories that inspire readers and glorify God. And she's been working at this since 2019, releasing several novels, short stories, and even a devotional. She's also a marketer and editor, and she just loves helping authors through her editing business and through even her press that she is releasing. She also loves helping young authors and writers because this is something that she struggled with when she was younger. You know, the whole publishing process, this was daunting for her. And so she wants to make it as easy as possible for you to not make the mistakes that she had to go through. She's amazing. I love her. I just love her humor. She's just delightful to spend time with. And I am so thrilled for you to be able to listen to our conversation, because she's going to be talking about things that she wished somebody could have told her before she had to make those mistakes. Now, this is a continuation of our previous episode where we were talking about whether you should pursue traditional publishing or self-publishing or hybrid publishing, because genuinely there is a difference and you really should pick whatever is best for you. So if you are at all in doubt as to what you should pursue and how to tell what's going to work best for you, definitely listen to that episode, because it is going to be so helpful and so beneficial. But before we jump into today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, don't forget to rate us, because this helps us reach so many more listeners with these stories and with these conversations. And definitely follow or subscribe so that you never miss a single episode. So as I was explaining before, Grace already broke down what traditional publishing is, what hybrid publishing is, what self-publishing is in our previous episode, and now she's going to talk about some of the mistakes that she wished that she could have avoided and some ways that she finds it sustainable to be able to run her own press and do editing, find cover designs, all those things that seem to boggle our minds. Well, she's going to answer all that in today's episode. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode.
Getting yourself emotionally ready, spiritually ready, getting your draft ready, that can sometimes be the hardest part, especially when, as an indie writer, you're pretty much the gatekeeper. There are no gatekeepers per se. So it's up to you to have that high standard for your book, for your work, for your marketing, for whatever you're doing. It goes as far as you want to go. And so it truly is so true that it's up to you and God and the book. It's really, that's what you're working with at that point. So thank you for sharing that.
Exactly. You are absolutely right. And I do think Yeah, like I didn't really give steps on the actual process. Because honestly, I wish I had told myself some of these things more so than process
Yeah,
things. Because I think people overthink self-publishing. Self-publishing is
absolutely.
one of the easiest things that you can possibly do. It is so simple to, once you write the book, like if you went through Kindle Direct Publishing from Amazon, which I did, they have templates for everything. They tell you what to do and how to do it so you don't have to figure out, formatting or whatever on your own. And
Right.
it's really simple, I think, the process itself to get your book out there. It really doesn't take a lot of, intimate knowledge, the secrets of self-publishing. Nah. Secrets of marketing? Yes. Marketing takes a lot of insight. That's a whole other thing. But as far as like the actual process, it is so simple. However, we can get so bogged down when we don't do it right. And so I
Totally.
think it has less to do with all these secret, complicated steps and more about just doing it right,
And getting
leading up to uploading it and pressing publish. That's easy. It's everything else before and after that's so difficult and that so many people forget about because it is easy and because there are no gatekeepers, like you said. I love that you mentioned that because it bugs me. And I won't get into it because, again, be here all day. But it really does bug me to see so many people. This is one reason why I don't hate on traditional publishing as much as I could, because gatekeepers are important, I think. I think
Mhm.
is a bad term.
That's a
Um,
really good point. Yeah.
if you're gatekeeping, important information from somebody, yeah, that's bad. But as far
Mhm.
as having somebody that sets a standard, and obviously traditional publishing these days is less about a standard of excellence and quality and more about trends and stuff. But
Mhm.
as a general rule, they do have standards and they have people who are saying this can or can't be published. But with self-publishing, it is you. You are the end all be all. You are the great publisher. Amazon isn't going to tell you your character, we don't really connect with her. Amazon's going to tell you if your words are going to bleed across the page. They ain't going to tell you about your character. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's nobody on the other end helping you. It's literally just you. So that's why, polish it. Wait, get outside feedback, because you're not going to have anybody telling you if it's ready or not but yourself.
Mhm.
So, yeah. But like you said,
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally feel also that like having a writer community, either on Instagram or some other community where you like pay a monthly fee or something like that to join, that helps so much because again, having those beta readers, even ideally have an editor, but if you for some reason absolutely can't have an editor for any reason whatsoever, having other people read your work before it's published and having them kind of sift through and having people who can like be honest with you and say, hey, I love these parts, but there are some things that I think you need to change. If you change these things, this book will be so much better, and graciously receiving that. And in case you guys want to hear a little bit more on like that editing side, I do also have an episode that I recorded with Caitlin Miller, who is amazing. She's also an editor, and she gave a whole bunch of tips on that. But definitely get other people to read your work before you publish it, because and like the people that don't like don't see it before it's published, those same problems are going to come back, but they're going to come back in reviews if
mm-hmm.
you don't fix it then.
Yes. And that's where so many people end up with all that bad negative feedback and reviews. You can't change, you can't reverse that. I'm going to unpublish and rewrite and republish my debut novel. Them reviews are still going to be there. I can't escape the bad rap the first book has. So that's why, yeah, like you said, get people who can be honest with you. Get a variety of people. Get people that write in different genres because they can have sometimes I'm going to give romance as an example because to me it is one of the most defined genres. Everybody knows what a romance is.
Totally.
It has so many strict rules, right? So sometimes we get so caught up in I've got to make it a romance. It's got to be romantic that we let, important parts of the story itself fall to the wayside. But if you get somebody that writes, fantasy, or somebody that writes a thriller, or somebody that writes literary fiction to read your book, somebody that you trust and they do a good job, they can offer you insight on the pacing or even the world building, even though it's set, in modern day Colorado Springs. They can still help you bring the setting to life or whatever. And then get people are better than you. It can be humbling to admit there are people better than you, but there are. I'm sorry, but there are. But yeah, get people that are genuinely good writers, because sometimes we can just get whoever they is, and they're not going to really offer you any good feedback because they don't really know. They may be there to hype you up, and you need people that will hype you up. Be like, oh, this is so good. This is so great. You're so much a better writer than me. We need people like that. I love those people. Thank you to my people who are like that. But then we also need people who be like, oh, honey, we're going to have to work on this, kindly, but who know more and who have more experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Definitely. Yeah. And we've kind of covered this a little bit, but how do you make sure the editing and like the cover design, because I know that's a huge thing, especially for indie and like self-published authors. How do you assure that those are high quality? So we talked a little bit about the editing, but I'd love to hear on the cover design, especially. When should you focus on those processes? Like those big, I think those are like the biggest concerns when it comes to self-publishing. When do you focus on that, and how do you make sure that they're high quality?
Okay, that was a very good question. Because I think a lot of people think, oh, I hired a cover designer, I did it, it's great. They hired a horrible cover designer, and they may as well have just done it themselves. No offense to anybody in particular. Because cover designing is an art too, and these people are learning and growing just as much as you are as a writer. So, everybody's got to start somewhere. But my thing is, for a cover designer, do your research, dig, find people. Even if you have to, something I like to do is in like my fancy traditional published books with these pretty covers, I look and see where they listed the cover designer either on the copyright page or on the very back of the book near the ISBN, and see if you can find these people. And of course, most of them just work with these big companies, and they won't work with, any Tom, Dick, or Harriet. But some people you can find, or you can work with these big companies, and some of them cost a little bit, but you'll find some that may be a little bit more in your price range, and it is definitely something worth saving up for. But I'm gonna throw out the name of this one lady, Hannah Linder. I love her. Her designs are so good. They're so beautiful. To me, they're affordable because even though they are kind of expensive, I mean, they're like in the $300 to $500 range. It's kind of where they're at. So that may sound expensive to some, but I've seen people charge $300, $400 for a crappy cover. So to me, it sounds like it's worth it. But yeah, do your research. Find people who work in your market. That's why, look at other books in your genre and find the people that are familiar with it, so that you're not, I want a, Regency romance cover, and they give you, a vampire Regency romance cover. It's not Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, sorry, but you know what I mean? You got to make sure you find people that know what they're doing, design-wise and then genre-wise, and aren't going to charge you an arm and a leg, because some people will charge you a whole lot more than what they're doing is worth. But yeah, so just do your research. And I always recommend going into cover design after you have finished your novel. You don't have to be done with edits and stuff, but as long as nothing major is going to change, it's still going to be about, this particular character, and that's the character you want on your cover.
Totally.
Some people want to get that cover as soon as possible, and then they never end up publishing their book, and they just spent $200 on a cover they're never going to use. So make sure that you've got everything together and you're ready to make the step, make the jump, the plunge, whatever. You're ready to do this before you go and buy a cover. But yeah, make sure you do your research and get a good one. And, like I said, just look at other covers. See what's out there. See what people really like. See what's trending, but then also what's kind of timeless. Those trends that haven't really gone out of style because they just that good. Because a lot of people are going to have trendy covers that in, 5 years, everybody's gonna, yeah, that's such an ugly cover. When people were loving it, in 2020 it was the best thing, but by 2025 nobody loves it. You know what I mean? But yeah, and then getting a good editor. Again, do your research. So important. Research. And look at, usually you can find editors listed in copyright pages and stuff, especially with self-published novels. People be like, edited by so-and-so. Look there. And if you can request a sample edit, do that. I'm not sure if every editor does. I know you're welcome to request a sample edit from me. I'm sure if you asked, they would do it, even if they don't say it on their website, just to make sure that you get somebody good quality and for a good price.
And that you work well with.
Yes, exactly. Because there are going to be some editors who they're just doing their job, and it may hurt your feelings. But there are going to be some editors that are, they're there to be your buddy. And that may not work for you, but it may work for you, in which case that's who you need. So yes, find somebody that you work well with and who works with similar books, who understands your genre, who understands the kind of book that you want. And do remember that you don't have to take everything they say as God's gospel honest truth. You don't have to accept every suggestion. If there's something that you feel in your bones, I can't change that. This must be here. Don't. It's okay. They ain't gonna sue you. It's okay. But yeah, do make sure that you get somebody professional who's got a good portfolio. Ask people, hey, you've worked with so-and-so. How are they? Oh, they're great. You should work with them. Yeah. But again, also do editing after you have edited it as much as you can. You and all your beta readers have been through it 101 times. Not really, but close. Somewhere in that.
Totally.
No. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but honestly, some of these books need it. Like mine. We need 101 rounds of edits. But anyway, make sure that you cannot possibly edit it anymore. Not even if you waited for 10 years, you still couldn't make it any better than it already is. That's when you get an editor.
Publishing is not meant to be a lonely road, even if you're doing self-publishing. Listen to me. There are people around the world who are willing to help you. Like if you literally ask a question, even on Instagram, they are more than willing to help you. You do not have to do this alone. But even if you literally have no one you can ask about publishing, there are books that can teach you, and even books that you love can teach you the fundamentals of the things that you need to do to be able to publish your book. Either the writing quality that your book needs to have, or even the copyright page. People talk so little about how much information is in the copyright page and in the acknowledgments. There are so many things you can find back there, believe me. And that's why it's so important to always keep reading. But let's be honest, it can be really, really frustrating when you're trying to find good books and you do not want to waste your time on bad books or books that really aren't gonna fill you up. That you're like, I don't think this spoke to me. This felt like a waste of my time. Well, friends, I am here to help you guys with that because I have my whole compiled list of books that I would wholeheartedly recommend that have been life-changing for me and that I believe will be life-changing for you too, that you will be able to enjoy and just kick your feet even, okay? Even if it's just a good old rom-com, here are books that at least I know that you will enjoy and that you will see the world a little bit differently because you read them. If you're interested in seeing the whole list of recommended books, I've created a whole page of recommendations just for you to be able to browse, and I've even included cleanness notes, so that way you don't even have to bother about what you're going to be reading. You're aware, you know what you're getting into, because I know that's been one of my biggest struggles, knowing what kind of content to expect and knowing if it's really a good fit for me. So if you're interested in that, head over to the description below or go to bookshop.org and look for Her Reading Life podcast, where you'll be able to find my whole recommended books page for you.
I've had this happen a lot in what I'm doing, which is why I offer a story critique now, because I've seen so many people come to me with a book. They're ready to publish this thing next month. I can't work in a month, number one. Number two, I get in there and I'm like, this is a first draft, honey. There's so much that you could have learned and you could have applied to this. I mean, even simple things like showing and telling or punctuation, like, we needed to work on this because now I'm going to have to give this book back to you and say, you're going to need to fix this before I can even edit it. So that's why you make sure it's as good as you can. But again, if you don't have any beta readers or you're just a really bad self-editor, that's okay. I offer this thing called a story critique, which is basically like a book review / beta reader / editor, like all mixed into one. So if your book is a first draft or if you're ready to, roll out the presses, either place your book is at, I can help you with it. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just here to make sure that I get the things that you're unsure about and help you really create a good book from an editorial perspective and a readerly perspective. But yeah, so, there's that. Because some people need that. And I see a lot of
Totally. Yeah, I'd seen that people did do critiques, and I was like, I'm surprised that more people don't do it because it's so helpful to know from somebody else's perspective. Because again, you've been in this book, your brain and your mind has been in this book for so long. Some people it's been 1 year, especially if it's your first draft. I've worked on my first draft for like 2 years. So I'm like in the trenches, I'm in there. And so sometimes I need somebody to be like, hey, tell me how this is. Like I sent it to you, like the first 6 chapters of my draft, because I was like, okay, let's see whether they like it. Like, how is this actually translating to some other brain that's not mine, that isn't my family? Because so far my dad and my sister had been the only ones who had read it. And so I was like, you know what? Let's get some outside perspective to see what the response is, how do they like the tone, the vibe, all of this. And it was great. People really enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, okay, these are the things they liked, these are the things they want more of. Okay, let's play with these ideas and involve them a little bit more in the rest of the draft. And it, again, for me, it served like a story critique kind of in a way, because I was able to see what the strengths of the story were and maybe some of the pitfalls where I'm like, oh, you know what? I should probably clarify that. I should probably change that up and things like that.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's something very underrated or, that you don't see a lot of, like you said, but can be really beneficial. I mean, even if you've had beta readers, sometimes it helps to have somebody that kind of straddles beta reading and editing, because you're not ready for an editor. You may not even be ready for a beta reader because something's up, but you can't figure out what it is, but you're not ready to send it to other people. And so you really feel like it needs to be fixed before you present this as your book to somebody. You know what I mean? So that's why critique can be so good. And because it does kind of encompass everything. So like what I try to do is, like, if I see somebody making a continual, like, genuine writing mistake, this is the time for me to point that out and help you learn through this process. Like, I'm not just, let's fix this book. Let's help you grow as a writer so that for the next draft, for the next book, you know what to do. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so, so much, Grace. This has been amazing. And before we close out, I would love to hear what's the most rewarding part of the self-publishing process for you. So I know it's been so hard and it can be so challenging with all the processes and things like that. But honestly, I've been so inspired by the fact that you've been able to create this beautiful platform and draw so many incredible writers and authors and readers who love your works. Tell me a little bit about some of the most rewarding, like a moment that has been like the most rewarding part for you of the self-publishing process.
Oh, this is a tough one. I've mentioned that, like, I have a lot of regrets and I feel like I didn't do things correctly. So on one hand, it's kind of hard to pick out anything that was rewarding because, like, I haven't made a lot of money and I haven't been, gotten big, and I'm not even really proud of what I've put out there. But at the same time, it's been a really good learning experience. And so I've gotten a lot of, like, the reward of wisdom, I guess.
Yeah.
And just learning and growing. But then, like you said, like, kind of building a community has been also really rewarding because I'm one of them weirdos. I never had no friends. Nobody ever loved me. No, I'm kidding. I mean, no, growing up, I did not have a lot of friends. So since, like, putting myself out there, I've made a lot of friends. And I've really, like, come to see the value of community and I just have people come alongside me who really pour into me, and, or maybe I'm able to pour into, and that has just been like amazing. So kind of like basically, even though what I've done maybe as an author has kind of not been the best, I feel like the Lord has used me anyway, and he's rewarded me in certain ways, because I've tried to be faithful to him. And so he's just kind of given me this really weird ministry in a way to be able to minister to people, even if my books are stinky at the moment. They're going to get better. They're going to get better. I'm serious. They're going to get better, okay? Y'all hold on. But until that point, I can't really rely on my books to be like, oh, this is going to just save you and change your life or whatever. No, but I'm able to make relationships that have really been beneficial to me, and hopefully I'm being beneficial to other people. But yeah, so I feel like God has just really given me a connection to other people, and then a greater connection to him as I'm trying to do what he's called me to do, and just kind of grow more in my relationship with him in that respect. So I guess that's been the most rewarding.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, I guess in a way, it's also been super cool because you've been able to say, like, I did it. I did it. I wrote a book. I published it. I did it.
Yeah, I mean, I did accomplish it. I didn't do it well, but I did do it. So that's a lot more than some people can say. And so I'll throw that out there. You can totally do it. Like, you don't have to do it perfect. It ain't never going to be perfect, baby. I'm sorry. But do it. If the Lord is telling you to publish a book or to write a book or whatever it is, go and do it. It is okay if you make mistakes. It is okay if you mess up. It is okay if you have to go back and redo it 5 times before you genuinely are pleased with it. But if you go and do it, and if you're faithful to what the Lord has called you to do, there will be rewards. There may be regrets, but there will also be a lot of gratitude and thankfulness, because he'll show himself to you in so many ways, and he'll lead you into these greater opportunities that you never would have experienced otherwise. So, even in all the mess and the chaos and the failures, there's so much grace and favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. My goodness. Thank you so much, Grace. And again, before we close out, because I wanted to make sure that we got to the final 3 questions that we ask every guest who comes onto the podcast. So the first question is, how do you live? So what are some activities that make you feel glad to be alive? So some people have said, like, walking outside without headphones, or chatting with old friends, baking. What are some things that make you feel alive?
Well, baking is definitely one of those. Baking, cooking, eating. Eating makes me feel, I'm definitely glad to be alive when I get to eat. I'll probably get to eat in heaven too, but I don't know. There's something about earth food. There's something about like making something and actually turning out good, and then being able to eat it and take pretty pictures of it. I like that.
I used to love when you posted like the stories, like the food. I was like, yes, that's my meal for today.
Yes. And then just trying new things and stuff. I love that. Reading good books. I've been getting into nonfiction lately. Oh my gosh. I'm like, forget fiction. Nonfiction all the way. Now, I probably won't feel like that forever, but I'm in that moment where I'm like, I ain't gonna write fiction. I ain't gonna read fiction. Nonfiction. Yeah. Genuinely. Read so many good books. It's just like, wow, that makes me glad to be alive. Listening to music. I love music. I love worship music. I love singing along to worship music in the shower because nobody else wants to hear me. Just me. The Lord appreciates my joyful noise, but that's about it. That's all that matters, though. Dancing around like a dork, the usual.
I love it. Yeah, it's truly so rewarding to be able to just do these basic things, but they fill us up with so much joy. It's insane. I love it so much. So, next up, how do you give? What are some of your favorite ways to bless and fill others?
This is something I could be better at.
Hey, all of us. I'm still working on this.
Yeah. I'm one of those people, my love language is stuff that costs money, and I don't have money. So, like, giving gifts is it's how I show love. It's not how I receive love. If you gave me money, I'd be thankful. But I would turn around and buy other people gifts. That's literally how it works. My mom's like, you got to rent it anyways. You're going to be broke. And I was like, but I'm loving people. I love when Operation Christmas Child comes around. I love filling up them shoe boxes. Oh, man.
It's so sweet.
I'm going to start saving, y'all. Genuinely. Love giving gifts. And then, like writing cards and letters is a cheaper way of giving somebody like a mini gift, throw in some stickers. I love doing that. Again, not the best at it because for some reason it takes a lot of brain power to write a card. All I got to do is say, thinking of you. So much brain power. Well, I write long cards though, so my cards are letters.
Same.
But I do try and do that sometimes. And then I guess just like checking in with people. That's the cheapest thing I can possibly manage to do. But yeah, always try and check in with people as much as I can and just be like, thinking of you, praying for you, want to study the Bible with me, how can I pray for you? Those kind of things. Because that does not take a lot of money or time. But as somebody who, whenever people message me or whatever, like, that means a lot.
Yeah. Totally.
So even though it may not seem like much when you're doing it, you never really know what the Lord can do through it. So, but yeah, I can totally try to do better with other things, but I don't have a lot of in-person friends, so there's not really a lot you can do with people online.
I totally relate.
I can't go on, a coffee date with this person or, take you out for your birthday, plan a surprise party. I can't do those things. You live halfway across the world. If I had the money, I'd come and visit you, but right now, I'm just going to have to text you, tell you I love you, send you funny emojis, GIFs, Reels. Reels are a love language.
Absolutely. They are so underrated. They truly are. I love that. Yeah. And honestly, it's just the basic little things that are often just so rewarding and so sweet sometimes. It's just that one, maybe you're having a bad day and somebody texts you and they're like, hey, just thinking of you. I'm so grateful for you. I'm like, I've had that. Friends text me and I'm like, darn, thank you. I needed that. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And now, lastly, how do you repeat? So what are some habits that you've implemented or are implementing that help you create a balanced lifestyle? So this can be anything from writing a to-do list before bed to, waking up early, taking time, with family, water bottles. I have a continual fight with that guy. I would love to hear what are just some of your favorite ways to repeat.
Yeah, this is another one we got to work on. These questions are convicting, girl. Oh, but yeah, I'm not very good at habits because I'm good at bad habits. No, I'm kidding. I'm bad at habits because I feel like every day is such a toss-up. Like routines change so much. I crave routine, but I have such a hard time establishing it because things just get crazy. But one thing that I have managed to stay consistent with, and then I keep adding to because I keep wanting more of it, is just like reading the Bible. So I started reading the Bible every night before I went to bed. And then last year for Lent, I was like, I'm going to get up early in the morning and read the Bible first thing in the morning. And I'm not getting up as early as I'd like to be anymore because I also like to sleep. But I'm still reading the Bible first thing in the morning. And I went from reading a chapter before bed and reading a chapter in the morning to I read 2 chapters before bed and 2 chapters in the morning. So like it just keeps growing because I just keep like, I want that. I mean, if of anything to get addicted to, the Word of God is the one.
Absolutely.
And then I've started like, a friend is like, hey, I need help reading the Bible. I got you. What you want to read, we'll read it. So that's really the only thing in life that I have managed to stay consistent with beyond brushing my teeth. That's about it. Totally. I do drink water. I got me a big water bottle for Christmas. It's 32 ounces, so I try and drink 2 of those. So that's 64. So that's the daily minimum requirement. Yeah, that's the help. But yeah, and I try. I'll introduce something new, and it's like, oh, let's try and do this, and then it'll just get to be like monotonous. And I was like, never mind. So it's kind of trying to find the balance between a habit that just continually motivates you and inspires you, and then a habit that just starts to feel like a chore.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and honestly, the Bible is just an incredible habit to have, and it just changes your day. It really, truly does. And now, finally, I would love to hear, Grace, where can our guests find you? Where can they get in touch with you? If they'd be interested in just jumping onto any of the things that you mentioned.
So many things. I mentioned a lot of things. Okay. There are so many things. So if you want to just get to me personally and then kind of like all of my other little stuff, my website, graceajohnson.com. That's graceajohnson.com. I'm sure she'll drop the links. Cheryl will drop the links. But yeah, that's got my blog, my newsletter, where you can contact me if you want to ask me a question, say hello. I appreciate hellos. To holler at me. What's up, girl? I see you. I see you too, baby. I like those. And then I also have a podcast. I have been sporadic lately, but we're trying to get back into it. Just type in Spirit and Script on Spotify. That's so many. Spirit and Script, Spotify. Say that 10 times fast. But yeah. So, and then I have a Patreon. Again, like I said, so many stuff. What else did I mention? I mentioned the story critique. If anybody's interested in that, I'm not currently accepting clients right now, but we will be eventually. So you can book a slot. That's also on my website. Again, graceajohnson.com. Boom. All that good stuff is there. That makes that simple. And then I mentioned the press. Right now, as of June, when we're recording this, the website is not up. Been waiting on making a business bank account so I can pay for the website so that it can be up. So that's been fun. But when it is up, it will be sky'sthelimitpress.com. And if it's still not up in 2 months, Lord, it better be. If it ain't, you can find us on Instagram at Sky's the Limit Press. Yeah, I think just Sky's the Limit Press, no dots, no nothings.
Perfect.
Yeah, and you can find all the updates and good stuff there. So yeah, that should hopefully take care of it.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you so much for sharing and just taking some time to come on the podcast. This was so lovely. Thank you so much for coming on and just sharing all your wisdom, hard-acquired wisdom on self-publishing and hybrid publishing and all of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has just been such a fun experience, and I've just really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all the people that have sat through this episode. I know I talked a lot, and I probably talk fast. Hopefully there's a way that you can slow these things down. I usually have to speed them up. Maybe you can slow it down. Either way, yes, I appreciate you so much, Shira, and everybody listening to me ramble for, so long. But yes, this has just been so much fun. And I really enjoyed being able to share all of, I wouldn't call it wisdom, but yes, all of whatever I've got, I shared it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another great episode, guys. I really feel so grateful for the opportunity to be able to work with these beautiful people who get to come onto my podcast and share their knowledge and share their passions. Truly, I feel so lucky to be able to meet these people and be able to chat with them and be able to share these conversations with you, because if I have these conversations, that's great. But I feel like the fact that I'm able to create this podcast and be able to share it with you makes it 10 times richer, because suddenly it's not a conversation with just me and this other person. It's a conversation with you guys as well. And you get to join the conversation. You get to get involved. And in fact, if you want to leave any comments below on YouTube or in Spotify, because now I have comments back for some reason. We had some issues with comments before, but now you should be able to comment on the episodes. I'm so excited for this function to be back again. Please, by all means, I see all your comments. and I love being able to see these. They allow me to tailor the episodes, but if you have any questions or any comments or just want to join the conversation, please, by all means, comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on these episodes. And yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and have learned so much about, the publishing process, and hopefully you're a little bit more clear on what you want and what will work best for you and your book. I'm so excited to hear more from you guys. And until next time, friends, continue to live, give, and repeat. And I will see you next time.